Hello everyone and welcome back to EDI Sports Show. If you clicked on the thumbnail, then you know I have $10,000 ready to spend on someone's collection. If you are selling your collection, you think it's worth $10,000 or less, then DM me on either Instagram or X at EDI Sports Cards. Let me know. I just did a live on Instagram with another collector. He showed me his collection. He is holding on to most of it. He is selling off individual cards on eBay, so he's not selling it as a collection. I want to talk to you, but what I'm trying to do is some technical difficulties. Yes, I'm using new programs, so hopefully this works. I'm going to go on to eBay, so let's do that right now. Okay, so hopefully this works. Let's see. All right, so this is eBay. I figured what I would do is I'd put it on the screen and maybe go through it with you. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for lots. And what I did was I put a max of $10,000 because that's kind of the limit. I want to find lots that are worth $10,000 or less that you guys are selling. And so what I do is I go to eBay and go under card lots. And that's where I find these things. If you have a collection, please just DM me in Instagram or X at EDI Sports Cards. But that's what I'm doing. Don't click away. We've got a huge show still to go. I still have my picks for Sunday for NFL, as well as we're going to do the viewer comments at the end and my big disappointments for 2024. So here's the first lot that I wanted to pick. This one, as you can see, it says Ken Griffey baseball card lot of hundreds cards. Okay, and we see the first picture here, and if you can see it right there, I'm going to try to zoom this in right here. So we're looking at the 89 Upper Deck rookie card. Okay, so you see that right there, 89 Upper Deck. And the reason I'm looking for that is when I look at lots, and this is what I want everybody to understand, when I look at lots, the first thing that you need to show me is what is your most expensive cards in this lot. Like, if you're going to charge $10,000, I want to see the cards that are worth the most amount of money. And that should be the first pictures you take. So if you are organizing your collection and you want to sell it to a dealer or to anybody, you need to start cataloging. That means make a list and take pictures of the most valuable cards, because that's the thing that we want to see first. Because when we value a collection, like if I'm looking at a collection to buy, then I want to see the stuff I can sell immediately. I hope that makes sense. I'm looking at the most valuable stuff first because that's what I know I can sell. So when I look at a lot that is a bunch of Ken Griffey's, I want to see where are the upper deck rookie cards. I want to see, do you have any autograph or patch cards? Because I can sell those fast. I want to also see if you have graded stuff. And there's some graded stuff in this lot, but I want to make this clear because you guys want to sell your stuff. You want to sell your collections. I know that you do. And so what I thought what I can do with this channel, with this show, is start to help collectors do what I did. I sold 8 million cards over a decade, 10 years. It took me forever to do. I had to break it up into multiple different deals. And every single time I had to follow the same pattern. I had to follow the same steps. First step was to actually separate it out into a lot that could sell. You can't sell 8 million cards in one deal. It's too big. This lot is a perfect size. The problem that we're going to see, and I'm going to go over this, the problem we're going to see is that it's not worth $10,000. That's going to be the problem, and I'm going to explain why. So as we go back to eBay, so you can see from the pictures, again, we're looking for the most valuable stuff. The only thing I see so far is the one Upper Deck rookie from 89. That's it. We have 91s right here. It's just not good enough. I mean, it's just not good enough. Those cards are worth about $3 each. I'm looking. I'm trying to find pictures of something that we can. So here we go. This is the only other thing that's worth anything. These are bronze cards. So you can see these are 2 bronze cards. The problem is that both of those bronze cards are selling for about $50 on eBay. That's it, $50. So that's $100 right there. And the 189 Upper Deck is also worth $50. So there's $200 of value so far. And you can see that this person's selling for $10,000. So there you have it on that lot. There's nothing wrong. Again, the seller did a great job of putting a lot together, posted it, took some decent pictures. Again, I want the first picture to be your most valuable stuff. If you're going to try to charge $10,000, then I want to see in the first picture all of the most valuable stuff in your lot so that I can understand how you got to the valuation that you want $10,000. This is not worth $10,000. That's fine. We're going to go right back to eBay. So let's take more of a look. If you get into this hobby, the first few cards you're going to buy, you're going to overpay a lot for them. That's just the way it is because you don't really know what anything is worth. So that's the first learning lesson in the sports card hobby. And so what I always recommend, if you're a subscriber of this show, this is what I recommend. You should not pay. We are hunting for another lot. And so this is what I do. I just go on eBay and I try to look for things. So here you go. This one's interesting. T206s. But here's a problem with this one. I've already previewed it. So here you go. We get it. Where are the pictures? No pictures. Not good. Not good. I like that there's a list so you can actually see what the cards are. So you know that here's the grades, here's all the numbers, here's the names of the players. Problem is that you're asking for over $9,000, close to $10,000. I'm sorry, you can't do this, but I'm also going to say this other thing. Here's the thing with buying vintage lots, and only collectors who know a lot about vintage know about this. So if you're new to vintage, here is the thing that you should understand. When you are buying vintage like these, T206s, T205s, caramels, like anything that's before 1940, you better know who your buyer is if you're trying to buy to sell, because there is a market for these cards. I want to make that very clear, but it's a very niche market. It's a very small market. Most of the hobby is not interested in these cards. It doesn't mean that no one is interested in it, but you need to be connected to the vintage market. And if you are not connected to the vintage market right now, this is a very bad lot for you to buy. Unless you're a collector, which I will also say, if you're a collector, then you need to price out each one of these cards and figure out, is this a deal or not? Because if you're a collector, then you should absolutely look at these lots of vintage cards and figure out, okay, am I paying a good price for each card? Because if you are, then you should buy the lot for your collection. This is a great way to actually add to your collection at a reasonable price. I will tell you right now, this is not a reasonable price. I think, I haven't priced out all the cards, but just based on all of the grades that I saw and based on the players, because I read all the names, this lot is probably only worth at max value about $7,000. That's at max value, which means that if you pay $7,000, that means you're paying max. If you're trying to sell this, that means you can only pay anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500 for that lot. And that's the problem that the seller's going to have. He's going to be like, well, wait a minute. It's worth $7,000. First of all, he's selling it for over $9,000. So now it's only worth $7,000. So it's $2,000 off automatically because the cards aren't worth that much. So that's only worth $7,000, and now you're offering $3,500. And again, the seller's going to say, "Oh, but you're undercutting me. You're undercutting me." And the issue is, this is what I hope everybody hears from this channel. Okay, this is why you should subscribe. What I'm telling you is that if you try to sell these cards individually, it's going to take a long time. In fact, it's going to be very difficult to sell these cards individually. You're going to sell the top names. There's two names in here. You got Tinker and you got Evers. And I already talked about them in a previous episode. That's the famous double play combination. Tinkers to Evers to Chance. Those are the only two players in this list. That means those players are going to sell absolutely quickly because they're Hall of Famers. They're famous. They're baseball legends. The rest of the players in this lot are not famous. They're not the most popular players. They're not the best players in the history of the game. Therefore, they're only going to be in a niche. And once you get into niche, you can't pay top dollar if you're trying to sell. If you're a collector and you're trying to fill in a set, if you have a T206 set and you're looking for the T206 cards, then honestly, if you pay $3,500 to $4,000, you're getting a deal, and it's worth it to buy them, because you're not trying to sell them, you're just trying to collect the cards. But you should not pay $9,000 for this lot. And again, I understand collectors who are trying to sell their stuff are getting upset. They're getting like, oh, but you're insulting me. You're insulting me. I'm not. I'm telling you the realities of the market. If you don't like the realities of the market, if you just put your stuff on eBay with the hopes of selling it at this ridiculous level, would you please just take your stuff down? eBay does not need all of these listings. Do not list your stuff up there unless you actually want to sell at a price that's at the market. If you have listings on eBay for longer than 6 months, pull them down. Please, for the hobby's sake, pull your listings down. Do not just keep them up forever. It literally hurts the hobby by keeping up your listings. Take them down. It would be better if eBay had less listings. Only sell your stuff if you want to sell at the market value. If you don't like what the market is doing, then keep your cards and take them off eBay. Please, can we do that? Please? All right, back to eBay. We need to find a lot. All right, I think I found one. Here we go. Michael Jordan, right next to the T206. So let's click into it. All right, so let's take a look. We got 3 cards in this lot, and one is the 1986 rookie card. I really love that the seller gave us good pictures, so let's take a look at this card. Unfortunately, guess what? The card is not going to grade very well. Look at all of these. Look at all this damage. I mean, there's corner problems, there's surface problems, there's a lot of issues with this card. This card would probably grade a 1, maybe a 2 if the PSA grader is really high and drunk and doesn't know what they're doing. This is going to grade a 1, and here's the problem. This seller was also trying to sell this for $10,000. Yes, 3 Jordan cards for $10,000. So the only way this is worth it is if that Jordan card is worth that kind of money. And unfortunately, a PSA 1 is selling for around $1,500. Max is about $1,800. A PSA 2, like I said, if the PSA grader is high and drunk at the same time and they stumble into work and they're like, I don't know, this looks like a 2 to me. It's not a 2, it's a 1. But if it's a 2, the max value on this is $2,500. The middle card, which I'll show you again, the middle card is that dunk card. That's the Nike advertisement promo card. That's only worth about $1,000. And the other card, the rookie sticker, that's the third card, that's also worth around $900. So we've got, let's say, $2,000, $1,000, that's $3,000, $900, that's $3,900. This guy's selling it for $9,999. Guess what? You're really overpriced. It's not worth that. So if it's only worth $3,900, let's say, so here is this lot. It's 3 cards worth $3,900. That's max value. That's legit the most it's worth. Again, it's not graded yet, so it's not worth that. And that's the other thing that sellers, hopefully you understand. If it's not graded, you can't sell hope. I mean, I know you can, but I mean, anybody that buys from you is a sucker. And if you want to take advantage of people, that's fine. But I'm here to try to give information to people, to collectors, so that you don't get screwed over. This is not worth $9,999. This is worth $3,900. So that's $6,000 overpriced. You cannot offer $3,900. I wouldn't do that. Honestly, what this is worth is about $1,000 to $1,500. Unfortunately for this seller, that's all that you should get is $1,000 to $1,500. And if you got offered anything close to $1,500, you should take it immediately. If you want to sell, if you don't want to sell, pull this off eBay. That's my message. Pull your listings, please. If it's on eBay for longer than 6 months, please pull your listings, please. All right, let's get to the second segment. This is my picks for Sunday. Who knew I was good at picking NFL games? I cannot believe it. I was 100% right last week. Yes, I did make an error, and so I appreciate 2 people corrected me in the comments. So if you find an error in one of my videos, please put the correction in the comments. So early this week, I put out my pick for the Thursday night game between Green Bay at Detroit, and I said that Green Bay was coming off a bye. That was wrong. They did not come off a bye. I forgot that they played on Thanksgiving. There were 3 games on Thanksgiving. I literally forgot. So anyway, and thank you for the correction. So here we go. These are the games for this week. And let's do, first of all, Thursday night's game. That was yesterday. And guess what? I picked it again. And here we go. Detroit wins 34-31. And who had that? Like, seriously, who had Detroit over Green Bay by 3 at the end? Because Green Bay was actually tied the game at 31, and Detroit came back at the end to score the winning field goal. Unreal. But here we go. We're going to pick the game. So the first game on the list is Jacksonville at Tennessee, and I am picking Tennessee. All right, in the second game, the Jets at Miami, I'm taking the Jets. Third game, Atlanta in Minnesota, I'm going with Minnesota. New Orleans goes to MetLife Stadium, and the Giants take New Orleans. We got Carolina and Philadelphia. Go Philadelphia in that game. You got Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Take the Steelers. Las Vegas at Tampa Bay. With the way Tampa Bay played last week, I am not taking Tampa Bay. I'm going with Las Vegas. Seattle at Arizona, I'm going with the Cardinals. Take Arizona. Buffalo at the Los Angeles Rams. Take Buffalo. Chicago at San Francisco, I'm taking San Francisco. And the LA Chargers at Kansas City. Here we go. This is the one that's going to prove whether or not I know what I'm talking about or not. I am taking the Chargers over the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, I know, but here you go. This is where, if I know what I'm talking about, then I get these picks right. So those are all those games. And then let's go to the Monday night game. That's Cincinnati 4-8 versus Dallas 5-7. And I am going with Dallas. Dallas is still in the hunt for a playoff spot. I'm going with Dallas, even though this is not a good blockbuster Monday night game. I mean, who cares? The Bengals versus Dallas, I mean, nobody cares. But I'm going to take Dallas in that game. So those are my picks for Week 14. Let's see next week how I do. All right, let's get into my big disappointments for 2024, and then we're going to transition right into the viewer comments. So here, I got 2 disappointments that I want to talk about this week. The first is that Pete Rose passed away in 2024, and baseball, Major League Baseball, has not done anything regarding Pete Rose and the Hall of Fame. I think posthumously, they need to put him into the Hall. I mean, this is ridiculous. He gambled on baseball. You want to know something? Baseball actually promotes gambling now, so I don't know what you want. Literally, he never bet on his own teams. He was not like the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Yes, he had a gambling addiction problem. But you know what? We have players in the Hall of Fame that have way worse. I mean, Big Papi was a juicer. He literally used performance-enhancing drugs, and he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, at least at this point, we need to get off pomp and circumstance. We need to get off our high horse, and we need to put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. He passed away. He will never enjoy it himself, but it's the right thing to do. We are in 2024. We're not Puritans anymore. He had a gambling addiction. He never bet on the Reds. And even if he did bet on the Reds, he always bet to win. So I'm just telling you, we need to put him in. Now, here's the second disappointment. This is the price of wax. And I know that this is now becoming a huge, huge deal with all the sports card influencers. I think they're watching my channel at this point because I've been talking about the price of wax for over 3 months. And now every single influencer is talking about the price of wax. So did I start a trend? Who knows? Here we go. The issue is, and I did this last week or the week before, I can't even keep track. I told you what the cards were worth, actually worth in the market, okay? A box of 1991 Fleer. The box was $20. There were 504 cards in the box. That means that each card was about 3 cents each. Okay, in inflation dollars, that means, let's say a double. So let's say it was like 4 cents. So double means that each card is 8 cents. Even if it was 10 cents, even if it was a dime, that means that the blaster box you buy at Walmart, at Target, shouldn't be more than $6 or $7. That's it. And that's the problem. The $6, $7 box, even at $10, okay? Let's just say that they want to make more profit. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with the company making profit. But the amount of profit they're making is sick. It's literally sick. So it's a $10 blaster box, and they're selling it for $30 or $40. That's the problem. And I am so disappointed that the hobby doesn't call this out and basically say, we're not buying wax anymore. We're not going to do breaks. We're not buying wax. End of story. The only way we're going to buy cards is singles now. That's it. That's how we're going to buy cards. And if we do that and we don't pay these ridiculous prices for wax and you don't overpay for your cards, I just went through all the lots. Don't overpay for cards. Pay what they're worth. And if you do that, the hobby's going to have to self-correct because all the breakers are going to go out of business. And once they go out of business, and I'm not saying that I want the breakers to go out of business, but I'm telling you their business model only works if you pay for the breaks and you're overpaying for breaks. So they're buying up all this expensive wax. They can't make it work as a business unless you overpay for breaks, and you are overpaying. So stop doing that. Stop playing the game. You're getting screwed at every single turn. You're never going to hit the lottery. Just understand that. So those are my two big disappointments. Here we go. I'm going to do the viewer comments. Remember, there's only one more episode in 2024, and then I'm going to wish you a Happy New Year. So stay tuned for next Friday, but we're going to do the viewer comments first. We have come to my favorite part of the show. Yes, the viewer comments. I have 3 amazing comments this week, so do not click away. These are really good ones. We're going to get right into it. And the first one comes from Relentless Texas, and I love my Texas fans, so here we go. This is what he says. I am a fan of the show, mainly because it's long form and I can tell what's going on with it in the background while I work. Well, thank you for watching while you work. I also think you have a credibility problem. Oh, okay. Why do you think I have a credibility problem? I'm not accusing you of lying. Well, I appreciate that. But I find it hard to believe you sold millions of cards. Okay. Legit, I understand. You didn't watch me do it. You haven't been with me for the last 10, 20 years. Well, actually, I've been in the hobby for 40, so you haven't been there with me. So obviously, if I come on YouTube, you don't know who I am, and I say like, oh, I sold all these cards, clearly that's an obvious thing. You're kind of like, well, I'm a little skeptical. I get it. Totally fine. Especially this hoard you talk about. Well, trust me, I had a hoard. How did you acquire it? So I acquired it through being a teenage sports card dealer. Obviously, I didn't have the money for that. My dad paid for everything. I could not afford, because I had no money as a teenager, to do it. It was actually my dad's idea to become a dealer. I didn't want to be a dealer. I was 13, 14 years old. The last thing I wanted to do was get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to whatever card show we were going to. Remember, I couldn't drive, so my dad was driving, but I did all the work. So he bought the stuff. He bought all the cases. That's how we got all the cards. So he bought cases. Basically, it was the distributor that he got friendly with. My father was a big talker, and he was a networker, so he met everybody. So he went to a distributor and started buying cases from the distributor directly. This is way back in the day. The whole hobby was different. Anyway, so he would bring all these cases home, and he'd say, here you go, you have to open them. And I would say, what? Why do I have to open them? Why don't you open them? And he's like, that's not my job. That's your job. You open them, you sort them, and you put them out based on what you know about the hobby. And I was like, I don't really know that much about the hobby. I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, well, it doesn't matter. This is what we do. And so I had to basically figure it out as a teenager. And so I opened up all of these boxes and started to sort cards. And I didn't have, sorters, like, different boxes. That was later. I actually bought a sorter and I could do cards so much faster, and I put them all together in lots. I did team lots, I did player lots, and then we got plastic cases to hold the cards in, so that when I got a case, my dad bought a case, we went to the show, I actually could display everything. Now I had 2 cases because we usually get 1 or 2 tables, and so I'd have 2 cases, and then I'd have boxes of wax where I'd sell some packs, I'd sell actual sealed boxes, and then I also had cases that we would bring, because sometimes we would sell the cases to other dealers because we got them at the wholesale price, and so dealers would pay us for the cases if they were looking for that type of product. So hopefully that answers those questions. Let's get to the next one. So how did you originally pay for it? I already answered that. Where is the profit from all this? So I already made all the profit way back in the 80s and the 90s. So before I left for college, I had already made profit on everything. So when I had 8 million cards, basically I was at a 0 cost on those 8 million cards. I had already paid for everything. I never paid for anything as a collector. I became a collector because I had amassed 8 million things, and I just started to go, I like this, I like that. I'm also going to be honest, my father passed away in 2011, and so a lot of the cards that I had acquired through this hoard became sentimental for those reasons, and so that's why I decided not to just sell everything, but I wanted to go in and pick out what I was going to save. That's how I started the PC. Basically, what do I want to keep and put that aside? And I literally took it out of the storage unit and I put it in my bedroom. So I kept all of my cards that I was keeping in my bedroom so I wouldn't get it confused with the hoard that I was selling. So I never sold anything I wanted to keep and then go, oh my God, why did I do that? That was the card I wanted to keep. I literally took everything out of the hoard that I wanted, and then I sold everything else separately so that I could compartmentalize mentally. This is stuff I'm just going to get rid of, because if you don't do that, what happens is you start to hold on to stuff you don't want to hold on to. You have to mentally separate. This is the hoard. I need to sell it. I need to sell it. So when a dealer would give me a reasonable offer, yes, they got a great deal, but it was a reasonable offer. It didn't matter. I just was like, here you go. And they would look at me and be like, you're saying yes? And I knew, I'm like, give me a couple $100 more. That will make you feel better, because I'm negotiating back. It was a decent deal. It's obviously worth much more than you're offering me, but give me a couple $100 more, and that way you feel like you're not taking advantage of me. And they did. They were kind of like, all right, I know that may make a lot of you go, but you could have gotten so much more for it. I'm telling you right now, when you have a hoard, that's the wrong mentality. The right mentality is, can I sell it? And when you have somebody who's giving you an offer, you need to take that seriously. Do not just laugh off an offer. If a guy is giving you a legit offer, and this was thousands of dollars in the first deal that I did for the hoard, a dealer was giving me, or I guess a major dealer, I don't know. He didn't do card shows. He just had a warehouse that he was just piling cards in. I don't know. He was making his own hoard. And I just was like, all right, if this is what you want, that's fine. Now, I wanted to actually get a couple cards back in exchange. So I wanted the money and some cards, but to be honest, it was too much. It was just like, all right, just give the money. Give me a couple extra $100 instead of giving cards worth a couple $100. Give me a couple $100 instead of the cards. We'll just call it a deal and call it a day. And here you go. And I had to help him actually load up the U-Haul because it was a major amount. The guy came with his teenage son, and we both, all three of us, loaded up a U-Haul, and he drove it to his storage unit. Again, A lot of work, a lot of work. All right, so here, what else did it say? Is it safe to assume your knowledge is from failure and now you think you figured it out? No, my knowledge is not from failure. Yes, I did make a lot of mistakes. Like everybody makes mistakes in the beginning in this hobby. It's literally inevitable. If you get into this hobby, the first few cards you're going to buy, you're going to overpay a lot for them. That's just the way it is because you don't really know what anything is worth. So that's the first learning lesson in the sports card hobby. And so what I always recommend, if you're a subscriber of this show, this is what I recommend. You should not pay more than $100 for any card. When you first get into the hobby, do not pay more than $100 for any card. So don't look at cards that are worth more than $100. So if somebody has a $100 price tag on it, try to negotiate for those cards. That way, when you find out 2 months later that you overpaid, you're not like in the hole. You're sort of like, oh, okay, so that card was only worth 60 and I paid 100. Again, you're not breaking the bank in that learning lesson, but you're learning, I need to understand how much these cards are worth. That's the first learning lesson. If you don't do that, this is going to be a very difficult hobby. First of all, I want to thank you, Relentless Texas. Thank you for the comment. Again, the skepticism is healthy skepticism. The way that you address this, the way that you put it out, honestly, really polite. Thank you. Thank you. This is why I love my YouTube community, because this is the way you address somebody. This is the way you say, I don't believe you. Clearly laid it out. I don't believe you. These are the reasons why. These are the questions I have. Hopefully, I answered those questions for you. I don't have as much evidence as you would like, unfortunately, because I wasn't documenting what I was doing. I literally had 8 million cards. There was a whole bunch of situations. Like I said, so I collected it all. It was in a storage unit, and then I had my parents' basement. Those were the 3 places I had 8 million cards because it was so much stuff. Like it was ridiculous, the amount of stuff. 8 million cards is ridiculous. And anyway, my father passed away in 2011, and that's when I had to start figuring out, oh boy, I got to get rid of this because my mom needed to sell the house and move. And if I didn't get the cards out, we had a problem. So I basically had to figure out, okay, what can I move to my own location? Because I wasn't living with my mom at the time. What can I move to my own location? So that's why I started to consolidate and go, okay, what am I keeping? And that's what I moved to where I lived. And then I had basically 2 storage unit and a half, and then my mom's basement. And I started to sell out of that stuff. And I had to divide things up. So again, a lot of problems. But that's the backstory. Hopefully that gives you some more confidence in where I'm coming from. I understand there's a lot to unpack. But please, if you have more questions, please put them down. Thank you, Relentless. Let's get to the next comment. This is from John Z. Baez. Love that name, John Z. Baez. All right, is there any other sources other than eBay that people check on how the prices are flowing on cards? There's definitely price tampering going on eBay. I don't know about price tampering. I do know about price shilling. So basically, like in the auctions, people are, putting in their own bids and then driving up the price. That is already been proven on eBay, and several sellers were kicked off the platform. So that's already a thing that happened. So you're correct about that. There are a couple places that I know of, but if we have 2,000 people here who are watching this show, so if you know of any other places to check for prices, put it down below in the comments. Please, everybody check the comments for those suggestions. But here's a couple places that I know of. So there are a couple paid places. Obviously, you've got the Sports Card Investor Market app. I don't recommend that one. But here is another one that you can pay for called Card Ladder. I know that Sports Card Radio uses it. I know that a lot of people in the hobby use it. I don't know about how accurate it is, but again, I don't hear as many bad things about Card Ladder. But again, any one of these, if they don't include the auction sites like Heritage and like Golden, and Sotheby's, Leland's, like if you don't add those prices in, you have a problem. So that's the one thing. You also have private sales that go on, and that's where, we have a hobby problem with transparency on sales. That's why this is not a stock market. That's why this is not an asset class. You can try to make it an asset class, but it is not, because there's no transparency on sale prices. And that's the problem. We need a registry where any sale of a card, it's being registered somewhere. If we could get that in the hobby, then we would be in a much better place. Again, worldwide, we'd be in a much better place, but we don't have that right now. So you got those two paid places. You also have SportsCard Pro, and then you also have 130 Point. Now these places, they're good. They're good starting points. And then I also use eBay to really look at actual sales, just because eBay is the largest reseller. You can also go to Fanatics now, because Fanatics has its own marketplace, and so now Fanatics will also have their sales. You have to piece this together. There's unfortunately no one place that has all the information. You can also go to PSA Card, the auction prices for each of their cards. It's not the most accurate, unfortunately. That's the problem with the hobby. You really have to cull all of these information, all this research together, and try to get a better sense. Because I've been doing this long enough, I kind of know. I get a range. I get a range that I'm comfortable with. And I know if I overpay, I'm not overpaying by a lot. I know what the range is. I know what the max is. So it's sort of like, all right, I'm okay being within, like if I really want a card, I'm okay being at the max and slightly above. Again, I'm okay with that, but you have to personally get there. If you don't want to overpay for cards, then you have to really know what the research is. Hopefully all of those sites give you a better sense. Let's get to the last comment. This one is a long one, but it is really, really good. So this is from NLM Documentary. Now, I want to say this before I even get started. This is a highly intelligent viewer. I have some of the smartest subscribers probably on YouTube, especially for a sports and sports card channel. Like literally, I might have rocket scientists watching my show, which I can't believe, but it's great. I mean, this is the type of comments that are just, they make me smile. So here we go. NLM, this is what he said. What EDI is saying is not only the absolute truth, but he is also teaching many people smart business strategies. Well, I appreciate that. Now, just so you're aware, he has commented before and he has said that he is into stock investments and he invests in the stock market and does all that research. Having said that, let's get to the next bit. The fact is, majority of people in the hobby aren't in business, and they probably shouldn't be. This is what manufacturers are profiting from, and that is irrational buying. That is absolutely 100% correct. Irrational buying. The best way to describe it in a retail sense, like if you were to look at sports cards as a retail product, let's say you go to a Macy's, you go to a JCPenney, you go to Target. When you go to the register, those are called impulse buys. That's what sports cards are. That's why they have them at the register. In fact, Walmart doesn't even have them right at the register anymore because of the fact that people went crazy, so they had to put them aside. So it's not really now an impulse buy. Now it's sort of a gambling addiction, which is why when you go to Walmart, you're going to buy sports cards. It used to be you go to Walmart, get all your stuff, and then you see sports cards and you go, ooh, I want to buy those. Now you're going specifically to buy sports cards, which is why the manufacturers know they have you on the hook. You're addicted to sports cards. That's a problem. Let's get to this. The market won't tank. Unfortunately, I disagree with you. Tank is let's take the word tank out. Here's what I disagree with. The market is going to go down. It is not going to crash the way that we had the bubble crash, because again, it was a bubble. But the market is still up in that bubble. We're in a bubble right now. There's a lot of economic issues coming in 2025. We are making a slow burn down the hill. The Fed has really slowed up the progress of this downturn, which means we're going to keep going down for a long period of time before we can make a recovery. I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm going to say this. I don't know if it's good or bad, but we'll only tell in the postscript whether or not that is the case. If you see how big the card market is growing elsewhere outside the United States and you see that it's actually growing, however, many people will lose money due to the current gambling trends. I believe majority of people into breaking will eventually realize that they are overspending on a very high risk, low return situation. I don't want to call it a scam because no one put a gun to your head and we are all adults here. We haven't seen an episode where Ty met a 12-year-old with $200,000 in debt on cards now, have we? No, you haven't seen that on Chasing Cardboard, but there have been other YouTube channels that have highlighted that children are in debt from sports cards. From the pandemic to today, there are instances where there are kids, teenagers, who have overspent on cards and they will never be able to pay that debt back. That's it. And unfortunately, if you're a child, you can't declare bankruptcy. So all that debt is on mommy and daddy. Like, I don't know. Like, parents need to get control of your kids. Like, I don't know why they're spending all this money. Again, it's not their money. It's your money. They don't have any money. So parents, stop giving away all of the money. Like, cut it off. Literally cut it off. Tell your kids, if you have no money, you're poor. I really wish parents would just tell their kids, you're poor. I have all the money. I go to work. I work for it. You do nothing. You go to school. End of story. And if you want to get paid to go to school, then let's sit down and let's have a negotiation, because there's a lot of work you need to do. You got to do your homework. You got to do your studying. You got to get your grades. You got to do your chores. You got to help out with mom. And if you don't do those things, I'm not giving you any money. End of story. I don't care. You can cry, you can yell, you can scream. I do not care. You're a teenager and you want to be treated like an adult, then start acting like an adult. I'm telling you folks, I can do this in my sleep with teenagers. Teenagers will cry like a 4-year-old until you lay your foot down and tell them the truth. You don't have any money. If you want money, go work. If you want me to pay you, then you need to do your job. And your job is to go to school, stop yelling and screaming, stop complaining, stop being a baby, and grow up. That's what life is all about. And your parents, you're in a better position if you do that while they're teenagers, so that when they get to be an adult, then adulting isn't so difficult. They've already learned the process of, oh, this is what a job is. Yes, that's what a job is. You go do something that you don't want to do in exchange for money. And I know a lot of people are like, well, but why don't you get a job that you love? Because jobs that you love don't pay very well. I worked in the film industry way back in the day, and guess what? It didn't pay anything. I loved every minute of it, but I couldn't make a living doing it. I love doing YouTube, but I can't make a living doing YouTube. I make literally $5 every video. $5. You know how much time it takes me to do these videos? So I'm making what? 25 cents an hour? Would you work for 25 cents an hour? No, you wouldn't. Not even a little bit. But I do this because I like doing it. The things you like doing don't pay the bills, unfortunately. The things you like doing. I was very good at my job. I wrote a book, still got to rewrite it because it's not as good as I want it to be. Because I have a high level standard. And if I don't meet my own standard, it's not good enough. For you guys, I'm making this show better every single week. I always figure out, how much can I do? What can I do better? Invest in the show. I appreciate everybody that follows. Let's finish out this comment and then we'll get to my final thoughts. It's a learning process, and I believe I haven't met one collector that has ever bought something that they had expectations on but lost money. My forecast for the hobby is that it will slowly grow into somewhat of a stock market, and the stock market we have people that will gamble, but there are also value investors, but the hobby, like the stock market, will grow year after year. First of all, in a general sense, in a general sense, when you look at the U.S. stock market, yes, overall, the stock market in the U.S. has grown by leaps and bounds overall. If you look at the general overall, like 100-year history, yes, if you invested 100 years ago, if you held on to all that stuff, you would you'd be a multimillionaire right now. Okay, this is not the stock market. And you should not think of sports cards like the stock market. That is not how this works at all. And if you do that, you're going to get burned. This is the thing that collectors have to understand. If you hold on to your cards, most of them will not be worth the same amount you paid for them. Unfortunately, there are cycles that go through the hobby. And what happens is some players catch fire. When that happens, if you want to get out of those cards, that's when you have to do it. Because if you don't, pendulum's going to come way back down and those cards will go back down. Right now, we're in a pendulum swing up on Thurman Munson cards. I already put out a video several weeks ago. This is probably like a month ago already. Thurman Munson is in a trend upwards. If you held on to Thurman Munson cards for 30 years, now's the time to sell them. This is in an upward trend. All Thurman Munson cards are being bought up. What's going to happen is eventually, like probably 2 years from now, I wouldn't not say 2025. I think the trend is still going to move. But in 2026 and 2027, no one's going to want Thurman Munson cards. Why? Because people's attention can't stay that long on one player. They're going to move to the next player. And I don't know who that will be. And that's part of the issue with the sports card hobby is you can't predict what's going to happen. You can predict better in the stock market. It's not really a prediction. It's more about you can actually evaluate the stock market by the fundamentals of the company. You can look for, let me see what this company is selling for and let me see what the valuation is, and you can say like, oh, this stock is at a discount. Problem with the hobby is there's no evaluation of the players. The value of the cards is based on demand, and you never know where the demand is going to be. You never know ahead of time. Which means that most of the time, that's why rookie prospecting is so impossible, because you are really guessing which players not only do you think are going to do well, but that people are going to want to buy. So a perfect example is Rafael Devers. No one is buying those cards, not at the level that they should. People are buying Mookie Betts now because Mookie Betts is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. But people are not buying Rafael Devers. Why? Because he's not on a winner. He's a great player, but people are buying Mookie Betts. So if you had Mookie Betts for the last, because again, I think his rookie is 2014. So that's 10 years ago. So if you've had Mookie Betts for 10 years, now's the time to sell his rookie card, because ungraded, it's like $2,000. So what did you pay for it? Sell it now. Sell it now. Because you're going to cash in and get all that profit. If you hold on to Mookie Betts, it's not going up. There's a ceiling. The only thing that can happen is it will go down as less and less demand because people won't care about Mookie Betts anymore. There's too many players in the hobby. There's too many players in sports. And so even though the market is growing, and I agree with you, documentary, the market is growing, especially worldwide. But worldwide does not like some of the American players. They like the foreign players. That's why Shohei Ohtani is like not just a generational talent, but he is a global phenomenon. And so Shohei cards, I don't know what to tell you with Shohei cards. You could buy them now and you can still make money on Shohei, even though he's been in the league and you already know what he is. He has literally become a cultural icon, and this is the type of Michael Jordan level that he has. So he's now solidified his name in the hobby for the next 50 years. So if you're looking for, well, who's the next big, like it's Shohei. Literally, it's Shohei. Shohei all day, Shohei all night. You can still make money with him, and that's the point. There aren't that many other players in the hobby currently that are like that. Even Wemby is a risk. I don't think it's a big risk, but it's a risk because there's a possibility that Wemby never wins a championship. There's a possibility that he never gets an MVP. And if he doesn't get those two things, then is he better than David Robinson? Is he better than Charles Barkley? Now, obviously, those two players were through the junk wax era, so their cards aren't worth anything. But they're Hall of Famers. Like, these are great basketball players. And the only reason Charles Barkley never won a championship, David Robinson got one because Tim Duncan came along and gave him one. But Barkley never won an NBA championship because Michael Jordan was in the league and Michael Jordan slammed the door on the Suns. Barkley never won. The same thing with the Utah Jazz. Like, some of these players and some of these teams just didn't have an opportunity because Michael Jordan was so good, you were never going to win a championship. So when Michael Jordan retired, was the opening for the Rockets and the Knicks, who never would have gotten to the finals and they never would have won a championship. So the Knicks finally got to the finals because Jordan wasn't there to knock them out in the Eastern Conference Finals. And Houston got to the finals and beat the Knicks because they didn't have Jordan to go up against. That's what people need to understand, is that some of these players that aren't getting the type of values that they should based on who they are is because they never won these championships, because Jordan was that good. He crushed everybody's hopes and dreams. That's how you know a player was that good. Like, LeBron James is not as good as Michael Jordan. He's a great player, Hall of Famer, absolutely, but he's nowhere close to Jordan because Jordan literally dominated every single superstar. There's not one superstar in the league from 86 to 97 who would not say, no, Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever. There's not one of them. They'll all tell you, like, yeah, Michael Jordan was. He was a force to be reckoned with, and we have a lot of pain because he beat us all the time. I'm from New York, and I can tell you Michael Jordan's the GOAT, the real GOAT. Not LeBron, not Stephon, nobody. It's Jordan all the way. Anyway, I want to thank you for that comment, LM documentary. It was great. Honestly, the comments are the best part of this show. I hope that you all enjoy it. One more episode for 2024. If you want to send me your ideas for 2025, put them down in the comments. I hope this show wasn't too long for you folks. This is what I do. So here we go. One more time. This is Doc saying I'll see you next Friday. There's only one show I wanna watch. H-O-B-B-Y.